expanded Sunday hunting on private and public lands of Calvert County. But after the introduction of this bill and discussions with the Board of County Commissioners and Calvert County residents, the commissioners requested to amend this bill to remove the provisions pertaining to public land. So that amendment is included. This bill will still expand Sunday hunting rights in Calvert County, but it will be restricted to only private property. With this amendment, Senate Bill 356 has the support of the Calvert County Senators, the Calvert County Delegation, and the Board of County Commissioners of Calvert County. I respectfully request a favorable report on 356 as amended to remove the public land portion of this bill. I want to thank each of you for your consideration. I'd like to turn this over to my panel. And introduction of my panel is the president of the Calvert County Board of Commissioners, Buddy Hance, who I think many of you know was the former Secretary of Agriculture and a current farmer in Calvert County. And I'd also introduce you to former Lieutenant Colonel Chuck Howes, a former Natural Resource Police officer who is a hunter, a sportsman, and has instructed hunter safety and is very familiar with this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me first welcome back former Secretary Buddy Hance. Buddy, great to see you. You look great.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Pinsky. It's good to see you too. So I'm here today as president of the Calvert County Board of Commissioners and in our support of Senate Bill 356. As Senator Bailey mentioned, we had asked that the bill be amended in the beginning to take out public lands. We want this to be on private land so the landowner has a choice of whether he wants to allow hunting on Sunday on his property. As a farmer, one of the most significant impacts to my operation is from wildlife damage. As was mentioned, I was Secretary of Agriculture, and what I learned as Secretary is how widespread the damage was across the entire state, and Calvert County was not unique. In fact, when I was Secretary, we estimated crop damage from wildlife to be about $10 million or more. So it is a significant impact that hits our bottom line. It comes off your net. It doesn't come off your gross. It comes off your net, what you lose to wildlife. So it is a significant impact of farming. And the other aspect is our culture has changed. When I was young, people took off from work. They used up vacation time to hunt. People don't do that anymore. Their lives are very busy. Children are busy in sports and other opportunities. So in a lot of cases, they only have weekends. And if we have a weekend of bad weather where they can't get out on a Saturday, sometimes Sunday is their only option. Or sometimes we'll have family coming in visiting, Saturday is their only option to hunt while they're back home on the farm. So we fully support Senate Bill 356. And you may hear, others talk about how it will impact their recreational activities. I just want to highlight to the committee once again, this is private land only. Landowner has a right to say no. Any trespassing by hunters, shooting across property lines, that's all illegal today. It will be illegal when this bill passes, hopefully. So just want you to consider the impacts that we have and give us all the tools we can have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Commissioner Hance. Let's go with Mr. Howes, Charles Howes. Are you with us, Mr. Howes? If so, please unmute.
He's there. Not sure why he's not showing up. I unmuted him or asked to unmute.
How about now?
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, try it again. Chairman Pinsky and committee members, my name is Charles Howes. I am a retired 25-year veteran of the Maryland Natural Resources Police and current owner of a large family farm in Calvert County. I'm writing to request your support of Senate Bill 356, Calvert County Sunday hunting. Passage of this legislation would permit the Department of Natural Resources to allow Sunday hunting of game mammals and birds in Calvert County. I'm the proud grandfather of 8. 5 have grown up on our farm. My 2 oldest grandsons are currently serving in the United States Army, leaving 1 grandson and 2 granddaughters at home. All 5 are avid hunters. The main obstacle we face in mentoring these children and becoming safe, ethical hunters is time. My granddaughters, age 7 and 10, require close supervision, as you can imagine. Even at their tender age, they were each successful in the recent deer hunting season. Allowing limited Sunday deer hunting in Calvert has been tremendously helpful in allowing them to participate in our family hunting endeavors. School, extracurricular activities, and work schedules complicate scheduling their hunting opportunities. Quite frequently, Sunday is the only day available in our busy lives to take the children hunting. During my career with the Maryland Natural Resources Police, I worked closely with Calvert County landowners. Occasionally, I would be called to investigate a complaint of a trespassing hunter. But because of our written permission requirements, these instances were rare. I also witnessed an interesting transition during my field assignment, which was 1970 through 1988, of hunter participation during opening hunting season. During the early part of my career, hunting activity during the week, especially deer hunting, was frequent and routine. As time passed, finding weekday hunting activity became increasingly more difficult. Current DNR deer kill statistics reflect this trend, identifying Saturdays as by far the most popular and successful hunting day. People simply no longer utilize weekdays for hunting activities as much as in the past. Lifestyles, distances from hunting areas, and family obligations all impact on this trend. Consequently, the Maryland Department of Natural Resources has identified Sundays as the second most important day in deer hunting success in counties where it is allowed. From a landowner perspective, I know of no reason any landowner would oppose this legislation. Maryland requires a hunter to possess written permission from the landowner to hunt. This gives the landowner sole authority to regulate hunting activity on his property. Should a landowner disapprove of Sunday hunting, he can simply refuse to grant permission to any hunter desiring to hunt on Sunday. Please support this legislation as another step forward in promoting our wonderful hunting heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howes. Questions for the sponsor or the proponents, then we will move to the unfavorable. I don't see any questions. Thank you for your testimony. Let us go to the unfavorable. Let's start with Margaret Crane, followed by Corinne Marie Poliquin.
Good afternoon, honorable committee members. My name is Margaret Crane. I'm also a large property owner down in Calvert County. I have a crop and livestock farm, and I am opposed to this legislation despite the previous testimony. I'm not, however, anti-hunting. What I have is I have a nationally recognized foot pack called the Hillsbridge Beagles, and we take with us children to seniors, all age ranges out in the field, and they get to enjoy the amazing resources that Southern Maryland has to offer. And what we've seen going out in the field is that deer hunters don't share the resource. And this is somewhat because in most instances on private property, including my private property, I lease mine, since they're paying to lease the private property, they don't want anyone on or near that property. They want to exclusively manage the resource. And so if you're on a property next door and you're doing something and you disturb the deer, for example, they get irate. And if you look at the Gonzalez report, what you'll find is what I experienced is that people are threatened by people with guns and they won't come back out. I've had experiences where families simply don't want to take the risk. Now, having said that, I am pro-hunter and I lease my farm to hunters and I buy a hunting license. But I do oppose giving hunters, not deer hunters, hunters 52 Sundays a year. That's what this does. This gives them 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's a challenge for other people that want to use this resource. And what I'd like to bring to the committee's attention is I think this bill creates winners and losers. And by winners and losers, I mean, if 8% of the population gets to control the resource, then it's hard to get people that don't get outside to go outside. Nobody wants to be threatened with a gun, and it doesn't matter that it's illegal. The goal is to share the resource. If Sundays, deer owners want Sundays, let's give them Sundays and we'll take back Saturdays. But I have as many as 100 people that come out with my little pack through the year on given days. And the goal is to get people off their screens and outside so that they can enjoy the amazing resources we have. As people have testified, if you're having a problem with crop damage, I have problems with crop damage, I get a crop damage permit. I surgically go in and resolve the problem where I'm having it. But during bird season, and rabbit season,
Ms. Crane, you're gonna have to wrap up. Ms. Crane,
Sorry.
you're gonna have to wrap up.
Thank you.
You can
I
finish your
just,
sentence. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Let's go to Ms. Poliquin.
Yes, good afternoon. Chairman Pinsky, thank you for your time. I am here representing the Maryland Horse Council, and we oppose Senate Bill 356. One of the things that may not be very clear or may not have been clarified here today is that the addition of Sunday hunting doesn't necessarily increase the number of deer that will be killed in a particular season. DNR uses bag limits to manage the deer population. So adding Sunday, what that does is it just expands or spreads out, I should say, the days on which they can be killed from 6 days to 7 days, but it doesn't expand the number of deer that can be killed. I, like Margaret, we have a 100-acre farm as well, and we manage our deer with DMPs. There are no limitations on that. You can hunt deer on your property with a DMP 7 days, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So it's not about crop damage either. There's already a mechanism in place to take care of that. What we feel that this is about is it's about sharing the resources that are available. As was in our written testimony, 70% of Marylanders oppose Sunday hunting. 60% in rural areas. Only 8% have hunted in the last 2 years. 24% of Marylanders experience wildlife in non-hunting ways. It's very difficult to go out bird watching or taking photography when there's hunting going on. So just to reiterate, we're not against hunting. We have hunters on our property, as Margaret does as well. We're just trying to share the resource. We just don't understand how, out of 6 million people in the state of Maryland, 8% can control our natural resources 100% of the time. And that's our basic position. We are happy to share, but sharing means we get something, not the hunters get everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Question for the opponents. Question, Senator Riley.
Thank you very much. Ms. Poliquin, unfortunately, I'm a city boy. I don't know what a DMP is.
Oh, deer management permit.
Oh, I know what that is. Okay.
Yes, apologies. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. And Mrs. Crane, you're saying that hunting can occur 52 months of the year. I thought deer season was really limited.
What this will allow is whatever species is in season, they can hunt it. So squirrel, rabbit, bird, deer, they will be in the woods every Sunday, 52 weeks of the year.
There are currently only 9 deer hunting Sundays in Calvert.
Ms. Crane, thank you for your answer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further questions? I have one quick one for each side. I want to go back. Senator Bailey or Mr. Hance, what would the hours be on Sunday?
The hours for hunting are 1/2 an hour before sunrise until sunset. And just to clarify the point that was just made, the hunting season, whether it be for deer or squirrels or rabbits, the deer season starts in the beginning of September and it goes until the end of January. And there are no seasons outside of that. So this is not a 52 a year issue.
So that would be 21 or 22 Sundays, up from the 9 currently?
That's correct. It's only on private property. Yes, sir.
Okay, I know we've had this conversation before, but has there been any thought to starting the Sunday a little so people could get out on their horses or take their hikes or see their birds earlier? I know dawn is a good time to hunt from a little knowledge, but is there a way to make some common purpose and common shared resource?
So as I think Mr. House and I all testified to, this is only on private property. And so the situation with the time, and I think you remember my children that came up and testified on this bill, it all depends on the weather and the time. And they are so restricted on not being able to go on Saturdays that when they get a chance to go on Sundays, they still have different issues around team sports, things like that. If they want to hunt on a Sunday morning or a Sunday evening, this is all about the landowner has the ability to allow hunting on their property. If the landowner doesn't want it, then the landowner doesn't have to permit it.
Right, and not to prolong this, as has been pointed out in earlier hearings, sometimes bullets don't stop at the end of the property. And again, that's nothing anybody can control. Okay, any further questions? If not, that completes the hearing on 356. Thank you for testifying. Good to see you again, Mr. Hance. Welcome back anytime.
Good to see you too, Chairman Pinsky.
Yep. Senator Bailey, let's go to 899.
Okay. Thank you. 899. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 899 deals with Canada geese and bag limits. This bill would require the bag limit for Canada geese to be uniform across the state of Maryland during the migratory Atlantic population Canada goose hunting season. There are currently two different goose hunting zones in Maryland, one for the Atlantic population of geese, and they are geese that migrate into the 48 contiguous states during the year, and one for resident population geese who live here in the contiguous 48 states all year. Both of these geese come to Maryland during the wintertime. This state is divided into two zones. They are based on historical data, based on what geese were generally found in that area, and that was done through band recovery. But that is something that is lacking in current day and current science. We are not tracking that the way we used to cover the Atlantic population hunt zone and the resident population hunt zone. So the season for hunting resident geese is managed by the state, and that is over 70 hunting days with a daily bag limit of 5 birds. The season for hunting the Atlantic population geese is managed by the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, and they work in coordination with the Department of Natural Resources. It's considerably more restricted. That season is 30 hunting days with one bird per day. The Atlantic population geese are currently being shot at an alarming rate in the resident area during the AP season. The purpose of this bill is to ensure that the entire state abides by these lower bag limits during the 30-day season. This is necessary because these geese that migrate into Maryland do not necessarily abide by the lines that were there in history. You can't have a highway that separates where these geese are going to go. They're clearly going to go to areas where there's less hunting pressure and there's more food. That's just common sense. The geese from the migratory area can be chased into Atlantic population, and therefore they can be in an area where they are harvested at a much higher rate. It's critical during this time in this pandemic to protect these Atlantic breeding populations. The last information we had on the breeding population was the fact that Maryland was reduced to a 30-day season and 1 bird per day. As a result of this pandemic and the inability for our biologists to count the breeding pairs for the entire East Coast Flyway, every single state that is part of the Flyway is being reduced to a 30-day one bird bag limit for geese next hunting season. They've already announced it. It's happening. Why? Because of the fact that this is a significant issue. These birds are at risk. These are the migratory birds that come here. They are the birds that make Maryland the goose hunting capital of the world. This bill simply does our part in protecting a resource that was under a moratorium 30 years ago. And why? Because the geese were harvested. We shot too many in the state of Maryland. And remember, DNR was the people that managed that population into a moratorium. Senate Bill 899 will only affect the bag limits in the Atlantic Flyway resident population during the 30-day AP season. As soon as that season's over, hunters in the rest of the state in the resident hunting zone will be able to return to the higher limit. But protecting these migratory geese from overharvest will ensure that a moratorium will not be issued on hunting geese in Maryland, and the Atlantic population are set to a standard for the whole population. This bill still allows that resident season, as I said, and if somebody's having a problem with nuisance resident geese, they can still get the USDA permit. I would not be surprised at all to hear DNR is not in support of this bill. There is no science being done. There's no available data. This bill simply protects the AP breeding pairs so that we don't have such an economic and recreational failure like we did when we had to have a moratorium on Canada geese in Maryland in the 1990s. I respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 899. Thank you for your consideration. I'd like to turn this over to my panel, Bill Miles and Beth Hill from the Hunters of Maryland.
Okay, please, Mr. Miles, welcome. Unmute, sir. We need to unmute Mr. Miles. No, that's video. The one next to it.
How about now?
We have audio, but no video.
You got me now, right?
Perfect.
Okay, well, there goes half my time. Real quick, the intent of the senator's bill, Mr. Chairman, is real simple. You've got to send the breeding pairs back to the northern breeding grounds, which is the Ungava Peninsula up in northern Quebec. And what happens is you've got all these resident birds, but they're which are really basically west of the 301 corridor on the western shore. But these migratory birds overlap and interact with these resident birds. The biologists from DNR will say that's not possible, but common sense and the guys that I know who hunt, including myself, know that to be a fact. What the good senator's trying to do is just say, hey, look, and it's really over 100 days where you can kill resident birds, just not 75. So to be able to just for conservation to send the breeding pairs home, so we don't have a 6-year moratorium we had in the 90s. If you restrict the number of resident birds from 5 birds a day to 1, only during that 30-day one bird season, you could imagine, without being a mathematician, how many breeding pairs are going to return north, and that keeps the population viable. And that's exactly, this was a conservation bill, and all the hunters in Maryland support this bill.
Thank you. Ms. Hill.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Beth Hill here with Hunters of Maryland in support of Senate Bill 899, which is intended to limit the unintentional harvest of migratory geese. You've seen our written testimony, and I agree with what's already been presented by Senator Bailey and Mr. Miles. So no need for me to repeat, just suffice to say that Maryland is entering into its third consecutive restrictive Canada goose hunting season, and for good reason. Overall population numbers are down, breeding pairs are down, reproduction rates are down. So we have a 30-day season with a 1 bird daily bag limit again for 2021. And we as hunters are okay with this. Why? Because we believe in resource conservation. And I guess quite frankly, we want to see the tradition of hunting remain alive. So again, common sense tells us that these migratory birds will be mixed in with the resident birds. And this bill is about erring on the side of caution next season. As someone born and raised on the Eastern Shore, we've always known Maryland to be regarded as the goose hunting capital of the world. Enactment of this bill may not bring back the numbers of yesterday, but if it allows for a handful of breeding pairs to return to their Canadian breeding grounds, it will be worth it. I thank Senator Bailey for bringing this bill forward, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hill, for your conciseness. Senator Ellis.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for the sponsor, Senator Bailey. Are there different bag limits for this species in Maryland at different jurisdictions?
So for the Atlantic population, there's 1 bag limit, and that's 1 bird for 30 days. For the resident population, there is a 70 or 75 day season for 5 birds.
So the rules are uniform throughout Maryland. In each jurisdiction, the limit is the same?
No, that's what this bill is trying to do, is to make it uniform. While these Atlantic population geese are here, we don't want to risk killing a large number of the breeding pairs that are so vital for the population of our breeding geese that want to return to Canada. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep everyone have the opportunity to hunt, but during the time when we are hunting those Atlantic population geese, that it is the same across the board.
Right, so what's the differences now with the limits in Maryland?
So one Atlantic is 1 bird for 30 days of hunting, and the resident season is 75 days with 5 birds a day. But what this will do is they will still, if you were in, no matter if you were in the resident area, you would still be able to hunt for the 75 days. It doesn't take hunting away from any one of those people. All it says is during that time, you can only shoot 1 goose, because unfortunately, there is no difference between that the hunter can tell between these geese. They don't fly around with a tag on them. One of them saying, I'm a resident, and the other saying, hey, I'm migratory, I came from Canada. There's no way that the hunter can tell. And so that's why this is such an important conservation aid, is to be able to say, while they're here, while we're hunting those, everybody can just kill 1.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Thank you for that. But Maryland has different limits for these migratory birds in the state. Certain areas, certain counties can get different limits, right?
So for migratory birds, the federal government sets that limit. It is set for 1 for the entire state.
Okay.
The state of Maryland says, okay, traditionally there was a line right here, and if you're west of that line, then you can have a higher limit during time.
Oh, where's that line in Southern Maryland?
Route 301.
301. Yeah. Okay. So, like, I guess west of 301, northwest, you can get more birds versus south and west of that line. South and east of the line is lower limit, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And so now, you're saying that it should be the same limit in the state.
For the 30 days while the season is in. So in Charles County, for instance, the day that the season went out, towards the end of January, when the Atlantic season went out, the next day in Charles County, they still had goose season, but instead of only being able to shoot one goose, they could then shoot 5. And that's what this bill would do. So that way, if there were resident geese there, right, and those resident geese, we know that they don't move, then they could shoot 5 of those for the next 6 weeks, just like they're doing right now, right? They're shooting those geese at the end. But the migrant birds that would be taking that pounding, they could go to Virginia. If they went to Virginia, Virginia considers them Atlantic population geese.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. Thank you, Senator. You answered my question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you. And being someone who supports reproductive rights, I clearly want that for the geese as well. Not seeing any other questions. That completes the hearing on the Canadian geese legislation. Senator, you have one more, or is that it? No, one more. SJ6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I'm going to talk to you now about Senate Joint Resolution 6. We're going to switch from deer and hunting and geese to now we're going to talk about fish. And what we're going to talk about predominantly is the Atlantic Menhaden and the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission. So this joint resolution requests that the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission evaluate the population of the Atlantic Menhaden in the Chesapeake Bay. This resolution also recommends that in order to maintain a sustainable Atlantic Menhaden fishery, the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission consider prohibiting the commercial reduction fishing of Atlantic Menhaden, including the use of purse seines and spotter planes inside the Chesapeake Bay. This policy changes requested by this resolution would prohibit the large vessels owned by a foreign country from over-harvesting the bait fish that are vital to the future of our fish populations. These fish populations are vital in the bay. One thing I'm going to talk to you about is the fact that this type of fishing that they do has over-harvested the menhaden in the past. And even though we're on EHE, I'm going to explain this. The menhaden are the life fish. They are the bait fish that every fish species and crabs prey on. That's what brings everybody to the table. It's very important. And the thing is, this type of fishing that we're talking about with this resolution is already illegal in Maryland, but it is still permitted in Virginia, and it's in the Virginia waters of the Chesapeake Bay. And quite frankly, there's only one way for those fish to get here. They've got to get here through the Virginia waters of the Chesapeake Bay. So this reduction fishing is done by a company, and many of you are familiar with it, and they're Pills, the Omega Fish Oil Company. And you will remember that company used to be a Virginia-based company, but it's now been sold and it's Canadian-owned. This reduction fishery has the ability to take 26% of the total Atlantic coast population of menhaden in the Chesapeake Bay. So every bait fish that exists for all the fish species from Maine to Florida are being harvested by a foreign company inside the Chesapeake Bay. That is really scary when we talk about the future of the populations of fish and all the people that rely on it. This poses a substantial threat to the billions of dollars in economic impact and thousands of jobs that are associated with both commercial and recreational fishing within the Chesapeake Bay. This reduction fishery in the bay threatens the populations of fish species like striped bass, trout, drum, shad, bluefish. All have seen alarming trends, downward trends in their populations. There's one thing that takes place with this reduction fishery. They also have a bycatch. And when this bycatch occurs, that means the rockfish or the trout that are underneath the menhaden, when the plane flies over and it sees the school and the ship comes in and it lets the big net out that goes around and ensnares all the fish, guess what? They get to keep all the rockfish that are underneath the menhaden, right? That does not take place in Maryland. We don't have any type of fishery that allows a bycatch in Maryland. It doesn't make sense. Virginia, enough is enough when it comes to that with them. It's important to be aware, and can't stress this enough, that Maryland does not allow this type of fishing, nor do we allow a bycatch. Very important when we talk about this. Why are menhaden harvested here in Maryland? They're mainly harvested to use for bait, for fish, to catch other fish or crabs. This resolution would not impact any of our local Maryland watermen. It would not impact our sport fishermen and our outdoorsmen. It would not impact them negatively. This is a positive issue for them, as you hear from some of the people that are going to talk. It's important that the General Assembly recognizes, and I'll have to say, Mr. Chairman, the commercial watermen, the charter boat captains, and the sport fishermen are all on the same page supporting this resolution. Worked very diligently this summer, working with them to see if they were on there. Now, when we talk about the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, Maryland has 3 members. One of them is a member of the General Assembly. Phil Langley, who has Delegate Stein's proxy, is going to speak in favor of this bill, right? One of the Maryland members is going to speak in favor of this bill. Other person, and we're all familiar with Mr. Robert T. Brown. He is the one that coordinated the meetings with this, and he has Russell Dyes as proxy for the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries. So 2 of the 3 proxies for the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission are behind this. The other
Senator, we're gonna have to, we have a voting session coming up, so.
I've got just 1 more minute. Thank you very much. The thing is, all 3 of these proxies, only one is DNR. We've got to be significant and understand why they're not supporting this. It's time to tell Virginia is enough. I respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Joint Resolution 6. Thank you, and I turn it over to my.
Thank you. Philip Zalasak.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, followed by Phil Langley and Thomas Lilly.
All right, and my understanding is I was the originator of this resolution. I get 5 minutes?
Up to 5 minutes, sir.
All right, I will not exceed that, I promise. Anyway, good afternoon, committee members. My name is Phil Zalasak. I'm the originator of this resolution. The issue is that Atlantic menhaden, as the senator stated, are critical food for striped bass, bluefish, and weakfish. And there aren't enough Atlantic menhaden along the Atlantic coast to ensure the survivability of these predator fish. That was an assessment by the Atlantic Menhaden Management Board, which manages this fishery. So what did they do? They said, well, look, let's cut the total allowable catch for the entire Atlantic coast by 10%. So they brought it from like 216,000 metric tons to 192,000 metric tons. I'll convert that to fish for you because I had great difficulty with figuring out how many fish that was, but I got that since then. So who's catching the fish? The board and the state of Virginia together allocated 71% of the total allowable catch for the entire Atlantic coast to Omega Protein. Omega Protein, a Canadian-owned company, is the last remaining reduction fishery on the Atlantic coast. Their quota is over 136,000 metric tons, or 620 million fish. 620 million fish. That's over 500 million fish being extracted from American waters to be harvested from the Virginia portion of the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. Under the board's current fishery management plan, Omega Protein can harvest 51,000 metric tons or 232 million fish. That's almost 250 million fish from the Virginia portion of the Chesapeake Bay. What do you think the impact that's going to be? That represents, as the senator said, 26.5% of the total allowable catch for the entire Atlantic coast. So you're taking over a quarter out of a portion of the bay for the entire total allowable catch. You're going to have an impact. Clearly, overharvesting is occurring in the Chesapeake Bay. The remaining 85,000 metric tons, or 333 million fish, are caught in the Atlantic Ocean. In summary, omega protein is allocated a total of 620 million fish to harvest, with 232 million fish coming from the Virginia portion of the Chesapeake Bay and 388 million fish coming from the Atlantic Ocean, with many being harvested at the entrance of the bay. So who cares? What's the impact? Over the last 22 years, there's been a devastating decline in the commercial harvest of striped bass, bluefish, weakfish, with reductions of 34%, 76%, and 98%, respectively. Over the last 20 years, there's been a devastating decline in commercial fishermen in Maryland and Virginia, for a total of 668 commercial fishermen, with reductions of 32% and 40%, respectively. Think about this. Over 60% of the ocean-going striped bass on the Atlantic coast originate as spawn in the Chesapeake Bay and its tributaries. The GDP associated with the striped bass recreational fishing industry alone on the Atlantic coast amounts to $7.7 billion and over 104,000 jobs, as reported in the 2019 Striped Bass Fishery Management Report. Clearly, this is impacting the business base of other states, not just Maryland and Virginia. And here's the worst part of it, or another part of it. It gets worse. It says in August 2020, Dr. Brian Watts, a professor at William & Mary, stated in a letter to Virginia government Northam the following: deep withdrawals of menhaden stocks on the reduction fishery is having an impact on consumer species. We have conducted field work in osprey throughout the lower Chesapeake Bay for 50 years, and data demonstrates ongoing impacts. Reductions in Atlantic menhaden stocks have caused osprey productivity to decline below the DDT era levels. These rates are insufficient to support the osprey population with the mainstream of the bay. You think that's a bad impact? I do. In conclusion, I fully support the resolution as written. This would preclude reduction fishing within the Chesapeake Bay. It would not take one fish from omega protein, current allocation. Atlantic menhaden need to recover for the benefit of recreational fishermen like myself, non-reduction commercial fishermen like those who are part of the Maryland commercial fishing industry, and last but not least, the marine environment. The data I just presented to you comes from the Atlantic States Marine Fishery Commission, the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, the Virginia Marine Resources Commission, and the Potomac River Fisheries Commission, or individual scientists via email. I will answer any questions you have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Zalasak. Let's go to Phil Langley, followed by Thomas Lilly. Mr. Langley, are you with us? If so, unmute. Lemoria, is he with us? Okay, let's go to Mr. Lilly, Thomas Lilly. If you're with us, can you unmute? Bottom left-hand corner. Click on the microphone. Okay, live.
That should do it.
Okay, Mr. Lilly, you're have audio. Bend your screen down a little bit so we can capture you. But let's get started on your testimony. That's perfect. Okay.
Okay. Committee members and Mr. Chairman, Senator Bailey, thank you so much. I live over in Whitehaven on the Wycomico River, and as you can see, I've been around long enough to see these drastic declines in our fish and wildlife in Chesapeake Bay, and believe me, it hurts. You have a resolution here before you that could start a path to have the Maryland DNR and our Maryland delegates to the commission move this intensive factory fishing out of the Chesapeake Bay where it's doing so much harm. Move it out into the Atlantic Ocean where there's plentiful menhaden and it won't do this kind of harm. Okay, what we have now, if you'll turn, you have the exhibit. If you'll turn to page 3 of my testimony. You will turn to page 3 of the testimony and take a, that is the fish, one school of menhaden in the Omega net. So that's what we have now. 9 of these huge purseine boats directed by spotter planes, catching about 5 or 6,000 schools of menhaden in the bay every year. And it's about to start again right at the 1st of May. That's 50,000 tons of food that they are taking out of the bay, grinding it up, putting it on tractor trailers and exporting it out of Maryland. Now, a lot of people ask, what would change if this stopped? Okay, turn to page 7. You'll see a letter from the editor of New York Angler, which clearly tells us what could change. And what could change is everything in our bay could change. It would, as he said, be the most amazing change that you can ever imagine. It would reinvigorate the bay. It would start our charters fishing again. It would be incredible for our ospreys and eagles that are now, their chicks are starving because they don't have enough menhaden. We need action on this. We don't need more research. Let me give you a real quick little bit of history here.
No, sorry, you've got about 15 seconds, 10 seconds left.
Man.
You need to finish up.
Okay, the bottom line is move this away from where it's doing all this harm and move it out into the Atlantic Ocean where it won't do the harm. It's very simple, and we're asking you to direct DNR and our Maryland delegates to do that without further
Thank you.
delay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Wilson from UFCW.
Good afternoon, Chair Pinsky and members of the committee. Thanks for the opportunity to comment this afternoon. I'm here on behalf of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 400's 10,000 members in Maryland. In addition to our members in Maryland, though, we also represent folks around the Mid-Atlantic, including the fishermen who go out and fish these menhaden who are based on the northern neck of Virginia. I've heard a lot of references to Omega being a foreign company, which is true, but they employ people here in the Mid-Atlantic region, including close to 100 of our members who fish off the northern neck, which are some of the few family supporting jobs for what is a 95% African-American workforce that's been doing this for generations off the northern neck. I think that the Atlantic State Marine Fisheries Commission, this resolution asks them to study, but then asks them to take action before the study is even done. I mean, this is clearly about prohibiting fishing in the bay, prohibiting fishing that's been done for generations by our members off the northern neck. There is already studies that are done every 2 years and more frequently sometimes that do stock assessments. The most recent one in February 2020 showed that the stock is not overfished. There has been reductions to what Omega is allowed to catch and our members are allowed to catch in the bay that were determined by science and make sense. We're okay with those. We think that this should continue to be managed based on the science by the ASMFC. There's no need for Maryland to request further studies, and there's no need for Maryland to be demanding that this fishing end without the science to back that up. We know that there are other interests who are continually pushing to reduce the catch in the bay. We deal with it in Virginia all the time. There was just some changes made to the way this is managed in Virginia last year that we agreed to and think will make this fishery, again, managed based on the science, managed based on a way that takes into account the fact that there are Virginians who do these jobs in addition, to it being a foreign company out of Canada. But we think it's not time for this, for Maryland to be requesting further studies or demanding this end when the science does not back that up. For that reason, we oppose SJ6 and ask for an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Okay, committee, any questions for proponents or opponents? Seeing none, I think we understand the issue. Thank you all for your patience and testimony. That completes the hearing. Thank you, Senator Bailey. Senator Edwards, are you still with us? Yes, you are.
Yes, sir.
Senate Bill 453, archery hunting safety zone. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 453 decreases the archery zone safety, archery hunting safety zone in areas where dwell houses, residence, church, or any building occupied by people from 150 yards, 50 yards in Garrett and Allegheny counties. This just puts us in the same category as 8 other counties in the state. Would appreciate your support of the bill.
Okay, any questions for the good senator from Garrett County in Western Maryland? Pretty straightforward. Thank you for your patience. Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Okay, Senator Eckert, deer and turkey hunting on Sundays, Talbot County. This seems to be hunting day. We'll hear from the senator from Mid Shore. We'll go to we'll take any questions for her. Then we'll go to the opposition, Joye Bell, Christy Claggett, and Betty Mackey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and members of the committee. Senator Eckert here with you today on Senate Bill 475, Talbot County deer and turkey hunting on Sundays. And it actually is a cross file of House Bill 325 that already passed over in the House, I believe. And I've offered amendments, and it would simply authorize the Department of Natural Resources to allow deer hunting on each Sunday of the deer hunting season and turkey hunting on each Sunday of the spring turkey season. So it's similar to legislation that's passed in the surrounding counties. The Talbot County farmers have requested this year after year. We've tried other means to be able to curb the deer population that's destroying their fields and their crops. And DNR seems to believe with us that this is one of the best alternatives to managing those deer is to open up hunt season. So I urge your favorable consideration and passage of this initiative for Talbot County. Thank you.
Questions for the good senator before we move to the opponents? For Senator Eckert, seeing none, let's go to the opponents who have a different view. Joye Bell, Christy Claggett, and Betty Mackey.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My name is Joye Bell. I'm a Talbot resident for 40 years. Talbot already has 7 Sundays reserved for hunters, and this would add 10 more. That's 17 uninterrupted weeks of hunting. It purports to be a huge economic engine that would attract hunters to Talbot to hunt. However, the Legislative Services fiscal note states that it is not expected to materially affect state or local finances, and even a minimal effect on small business. From the hunters I talked to, unleased property to hunt is hard to find. And so adding more Sundays would simply be for a convenience of existing hunters. An increase in Sunday hunting might well cause spending reductions by non-hunters, wildlife watchers, photographers, bird watchers, hikers, who make up 83% of the population, according to the U.S. Wildlife Census report. Comparison of expenditures in this report puts wildlife watchers on top, spending 3 times, 75.9 billion, with fishermen spending 46.1, and then last hunters 26.2 billion. And if you just Google growth of bird watching, you'll find numerous articles about bird watching, the fastest growing hobby in the US, especially among youth. Hunters are important, but wildlife watchers should be given consideration for their dollar contributions as well. And if the rationale for more Sundays to hunt is to produce more income, a friend of mine recommended a wildlife lottery. I think that'd be great. I would buy a ticket. Most important, however, are the unintended consequences of this bill. It's an economic term, and it means, for instance, I'll give you an example. An unintended consequence of hunting on your property might be that your neighbors have less use of their property. Dog walking, bird watching, anything. Property lines in the woods are rarely marked. Behind my house, 4 properties come together. I don't know where they are. Many horse owners don't own horse trailers. Their property is the only place they can ride, and sometimes even do business. And not to be forgotten is the horse industry's 2.1 billion impact on the economy, huge. 10% of Maryland's land is horse farms make up Maryland's land. Pastures are among the best filtering devices to protect the bay from runoff. And they are excellent absorbers of carbon dioxide and critical habitat for many grassland bird species that are in decline. So I just think if we have more accidents, how many more accidents would there be if the perception of danger didn't keep so many Marylanders inside at a time when doctors in 34 states are praising the health benefits of being outside in nature, even handing out green prescriptions, because people who like to get outside have to deal with weather and soccer games and work around all sorts of things to find a day that works for them. It's not just the hunters who need Sundays. We all have schedules to maintain, and we'd like to get our kids outside.
You've got to finish your sentence.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your taking the time.
Ms. Claggett.
Yes, hello, I'm Christy Claggett. I live in Harwood, Maryland. I'm speaking for the Maryland Horse Council, which represents the entire Maryland horse industry. The Maryland Horse Council opposes Senate Bill 475. They want to have all Sundays for deer hunting and all Sundays for turkey hunting. This really takes away from the non-hunter use of the properties. When you have hunting on property next to yours, it affects your use of your property. The bullets and the arrows do not know where the property lines are. So to be clear, the Maryland Horse Council is not anti-hunting. We don't oppose hunters. We just oppose Sunday hunting because we want one day a week allocated to non-hunting recreation. There is no urgent need to increase Sunday hunting. The DNR says the deer population has stabilized around 200,000 and they've reduced bag limits. Sunday hunting statistically does not increase the overall kill. It just increases killing on Sundays. It's a convenience for 2% of the licensed hunters in Maryland. The statement that children need this time to go out, well, children that are non-hunters need this time to go out also. So useful deer reduction and crop damage solutions are the deer management permits, which allow farmers to kill all year round. They can kill deer all year round. Managed hunts with coordinated hunters or sharpshooters to reduce around residential areas. The major amount of Marylanders oppose Sunday hunting. There are several polls done by Gonzalez Research, but also done by DNR. DNR says on their survey that the general population does not support Sunday hunting. And recent article that I read, DNR officers were quoted as being overstretched due to the increase in Sunday hunting. So why are we increasing Sunday hunting? Let's look at Talbot County's horse industry. A 210 census by the Maryland Horse Industry Board showed there were 1,500 horses, 260 stables, 5,000 acres involved in horse operations, and over 6 million total capital expenditure in Talbot County on horses. This number has only grown since 2010. So the majority of Marylanders are recreational riders. That means trail riders. They use intersecting trails of public and private land.
Ms. Claggett, Ms. Claggett,
wrap it up. Okay, well, so if they need to be able to use these trails, they can't use them if they're hunters out in the woods and fields. Please oppose this bill.
Okay, let's go to Ms. Maki. You're muted, ma'am. You need to unmute.
Got it. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm against Sunday hunting because I am an outdoor enthusiast who is quite uneasy walking in the woods or across a meadow with the possibility of hunters nearby. How nice it is to have some Sundays when no hunting is permitted. I live in a community where there are 400 plus homes. Approximately 48 of these homes back up to Seth Demonstration Forest. Seth Forest is one of the only public forests in Talbot County. There are 3 entrances into these woods, 2 from our community and 1 at the opposite end off of a county road. People enjoy walking under the tall canopy of these trees and the wide natural paths. People walk with their children, their dogs, for themselves, and a few horseback riders visit. This bow hunt designated area has 5 Sundays at this time. Increasing Sunday hunting would prevent visiting set forests the complete fall, and it could cause human-involved accidents. The average person is not aware of hunting seasons, and Sunday is a day when most people have time to enjoy the outdoors. It gives the animals a rest and the people a freedom to explore without the worry of disturbing hunters or getting shot. Since COVID-19 pandemic, more people are enjoying the outdoors and realizing how valuable a walk in the woods or across a meadow is to their mental health and their children's love of nature. I'm a member of the 65-year-old Talbot County Bird Club. We presently have 111 members, and our bird walks are on Sundays. One of the reasons Sunday was chosen is to avoid the hunters on other days. The number of hunters applying for licenses is steadily going down, as is the deer population. The turkey hatchlings have had low survival rates for the past several years, so the turkey population is at a decline or a standstill. Maryland has a full calendar of hunting now. Please remember, there are thousands of us who do not hunt. We are willing to share with hunters, but not give them all the Sundays.
Ms.
And
Maki,
set forest, it'd be from November to January.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions for any of the opponents? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing on that bill. Thank you very much, Senator Eckert. We're going to shift to Senator Hershey. He has 2 bills, 603 and 605. First one is Sunday deer hunting seasons. That seems to be a theme today. Senator Hershey will be followed by Daniel Franklin, James Lewis, Glenn Pluchak. I think that's it. Senator Hershey, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Senator Steve Hershey to present Senate Bill 603, which is a local bill that expands Sunday hunting in Caroline County to allow a person to hunt deer on each Sunday of the deer hunting season set by DNR on private property. This will be offered from the first Sunday in October through the second Sunday in January on private lands, again, not public lands. Senate Bill 603 is supported by the Caroline County Commissioners, the Caroline County Delegation, Caroline County Farm Bureau, and Department of Natural Resources. I ask for a favorable vote on Senate Bill 603. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Franklin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for your time today. For the record, Dan Franklin. I am Vice President of the Caroline County Commissioners, and I'm here before you today testifying in favor of Senate Bill 603. As many know, Caroline County is agricultural, as the largest industry in our county. Big part of that industry is grain farming. Profit margins in today's world of grain farming are very, very slim. And if the deer tend to help themselves to the grain farms, which they do so well, the profit margins get slimmer, threatening some of these operations. It can cause a tremendous loss to these farmers who can little afford to lose anything, never mind the amount that they are losing. Expanding the hunting on Sundays, it would, in essence, allow them to protect their investments, so to speak. And it would also help the food supply chain that we all have come to rely on. In Caroline County, we have a lot of rural areas, county roads, no streetlights. With the larger deer population, that presents a substantial danger to the motorists. Every year, State Farm is one of the top releasers of statistics when it comes to deer collisions. In Maryland, they're estimating, I believe, 30,000 collisions every year. I don't know that I have to point it out, but in last year in September or October, there was a gentleman killed on I-97 by a struck deer in Carroll County. Sorry, not in Westminster. Anytime you hit a deer, with the way today's vehicles are, you're looking at somewhere $3,000 to $4,000 worth of damage. Some people got to foot that bill out of their pocket. In my county, where we don't have the highest median income, that hurts a lot. I'm a career law enforcement officer, 22 years on the street. Personally have witnessed and know many people that have been hurt by deer accidents, some severely. Unfortunately, I've responded to way too many of those collisions. I'm not saying that expanding to Sunday hunting will stop them, but it will certainly go a little ways towards controlling them. In Maryland, along with other states, in order to hunt, you're required to take training. Many of the other recreational industries that have been mentioned, you're not. Myself, I am a very, very avid hunter. I donate lots of deer every year. I keep them myself. And one thing that I would say the majority of hunters, not just in Maryland, but in the United States, if they're hunting, they're not wasting it. They don't disrespect the animal that way. Some folks thoroughly enjoy venison, me being one of them. It's a very healthy option. Myself and the two panelists that are with me today, we try to help the community in addition to helping ourselves by donating deer, by harvesting deer, and responsibly doing so. The other thing to note is this is a private land only bill. If a landowner wants deer hunting on their land on Sunday, they should be allowed to do so. Doesn't tremendously affect the public land. My other point would be is the additional day will give an opportunity for those who would like to take their children or loved ones, husbands, wives, whatever your case may be. It'll provide them an additional day to do so, especially for those that have the 5-day work week. I would respectfully ask the committee for a favorable report on Senate Bill 603, and I would be absolutely more than happy to entertain any questions if anyone has any. Thank you again for your time, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Let's go to Mr. Lewis.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm in favor of this bill. I've testified 5 times over the past 15 years, and the only opponents seem to be the equestrian population. I agree with Farm Bureau and the county's testimony. In addition, I believe I should have the right to take my kids deer hunting Sunday after church on my property, just as a horse owner should be able to ride on their property whenever they want. And I believe this, even though the statistics show there is more of a risk of me being injured or killed by a horse than the other way around. I thought it was common knowledge that on the East Coast and nationwide, there are more people injured or killed by horses that are not even riding the horse than by hunters injuring or killing anyone. So hunters and all citizens need to be more concerned of horses than horses and riders being concerned of hunters. An innocent everyday citizen, you're more likely to be involved in an equestrian accident than a hunting accident. This is by number, hours involved, or days participating. Hunting is safer than equestrian activities. Hunters have to purchase a license after going through hours of instruction and passing a competency exam. Do horseback riders have the same mandated requirements? No, even though horseback riding is way more dangerous. There should never be a hunter-horse interaction if neither trespass. The hunter is required by law to have permission to hunt on property, and I assume a horseback rider is required to have permission to ride on private property. If neither owns the property, it should be up to the landowner to decide. This is a property rights issue. The landowner should have the right to say, I can hunt on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, or any day they choose. Over 3/4 of the states allow Sunday hunting, including Kentucky, which I think has a few horses. Even in Maryland, there's been Sunday hunting for groundhogs for decades with rifles and on regulating shooting areas. And there are very, 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 very few accidental horse or rider shootings or bird watchers. Target practice is currently conducted on Sundays on many of the same farms as hunting. There are usually 10 to 100 times as many shots fired when target practice versus hunting. So Sunday hunting may actually reduce the number of shots fired on Sundays. They have said they're worried about bullets and arrows crossing property lines. Hunters don't shoot across lines, nowhere near as often as horses cross property lines. The hunter has control of the gun or the bow. Horses have their own brain. They have said they choose Sundays for equestrian events since hunting is not allowed. After surveying weekend equestrian events, over 75% are currently on Saturdays. If I'm not allowed to take my son hunting on Sunday, can we please ban equestrian events on Saturday? Once again, horses are much more dangerous than guns and bows. The real issue is horse riders don't want hunters in the woods on Sunday so they can trespass without getting caught. I hate to be so anti-equestrian, but they've decided to be anti-Sunday hunting, and equestrian activities are more dangerous. I just want to be able to take my family on my private property hunting on Sunday. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Plushak.
Glenn Pluchek, can you hear me?
Yes, we lost the video, sir. We can hear you though.
All right, let me just do this because many of the points have been made. I own a Century Farm in Caroline County near Preston. My great-grandfather bought it in 1900 and it passed down the line to my sister and I in 2001. We want to keep it a farm. We love it. Our children and grandchildren love it, but we have to make a profit in order to do that. We have sent in this Caroline, I'm the past president of Caroline County Farm Bureau. We sent in maps, harvest maps, which clearly show the reduction in harvest when you get around the edges of the field, mostly through deer damage. The green areas are in the centers of the field, indicating a great harvest. The outlining areas indicate red, showing very limited harvest. In some cases, it's even white, which shows no harvest. I grew up on the farm in the 50s and 60s. I didn't see any deer. We could roam the woods, didn't have to worry about Lyme disease. And now we got deer everywhere and they're causing significant losses. Our newest tractor is a John Deere 1983. Our planter is a John Deere 1987. We'd like to upgrade. And to do that, we need to make a profit. We can't afford $50 an acre on an average loss for deer damage. I urge support of Senate Bill 603, and I thank you for your time, sir.
No, thank you, sir. Questions for the proponents before we go to the opponents? Seeing no hands raised, we will go to the opponents.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Patterson.
Thank you. I would like to ask a quick question to one
Please.
of. Yeah, I guess my concern is how do you control the boundaries of the property lines to ensure that bullets do not travel from one point to the other point? And someone made a statement that horses are much more safer than bullets. I sort of take an exception to that. I don't think that's actually how I would interpret it. But I just, I just can't imagine how is there a certain radius that you don't get in close proximity with someone else's property or home? Help me out there. I mean, I'm struggling with this. I'm trying to figure out how this thing works. And so the sponsor of the Eckert, are you going to respond to that for me, Senator?
Senator Hershey, you can select one of your proponents.
I think Jim was going to respond to that if he's still right there. Yes, thanks.
Okay.
I'll be glad to. So property lines that I hunt on are all marked. Most of the property lines on farms, woods and farms are marked. The hunter fully knows when he releases the arrow or squeezes the trigger where that shot is going, where the bullet's going. 99 times out of 100, it's going to end up in the ground within 30 or 40 yards beyond the target that's being shot at. And then during deer season, if they're up in a tree, it's going to hit the ground even faster. As a senator, I assume that you would look at statistics and science and not just believe propaganda. And if you look up the numbers, horses are far and away more dangerous than hunting.
Okay. I'm not going to go to that point. I'm going to listen to the testimony and I'm going to reach my conclusion from that in lieu of looking up statistics. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Patterson. Let's go to the opponents. Let's start with Christy Claggett, Joye Bell, Stacy Frank, and Al Martinez. Let's be additive for subsequent opponents rather than repetitive.
Okay.
Ms. Claggett.
Yes. Well, once again, representing the Maryland Horse Council, opposing Senate Bill 603, 15 consecutive Sundays on private land. Caroline County already has 9 Sundays on private land. That's more than enough to kill the deer that they want to kill, especially when recreational hunters are really not the most effective tool. The deer management plan is the most effective tool, and a farmer that's having crop damage should get his crop damage permit where he can kill 30 deer. And when he completes that, he can kill another 30 deer by getting another permit. It's just the most effective way to get the job done. We stand for equitable sharing of the natural resources. And saying that bullets know where the property line is, I have a personal story. On a Saturday during deer season, I was riding on my own farm along my property line. I heard a gunshot, and a few moments later, I heard whistling. And I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna get shot on my own property. I lay down on my horse's neck and the slug went past me. But I certainly remember that noise every day. So it is not right for people to be shooting next door. It's not right to say it doesn't affect your use of your own property. So we are for equitable use, and we are asking that you oppose the increment of Sunday hunting.
Thank you. Ms. Claggett. Let's go to Ms. Bell. You need to unmute.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I got so involved listening to Ms. Claggett. DNR hunting incident reports are shockingly incomplete. And here are 3 unreported but documented incidents. 2014, a biker in Tuckahoe State Park was shot in the legs. 2016, an 87-year-old man was struck in the head by a bullet while walking on his own property, which adjoined Patuxent River Park. 2019, a woman was shooting a groundhog in her backyard and grazed a man's shoulder. He was walking in a park which bordered her land. But there are lots and lots of other ones, not as many as that probably really exist, that DNR has reported, and I have included that in my written testimony. Here are a couple. 2019, an unknown Washington County deer hunter shot a crossbow bolt through a Honda SUV while it was parked in the victim's driveway. 2017, a Carroll County deer hunter sent a 7mm projectile through the side of a residence, through the bedroom wall, through a wooden dresser, then through a closet, all before coming to rest in a pile of towels in the closet. 2 people were in the bed at the time. Bullets do not respect boundaries. And sometimes hunters just, get a little off balance, I guess. Brenda Kibler is a retired DNR police officer, and she was quoted in an article in the February 14 issue of the Star Democrat. Quote, DNR was often short-staffed and hunting accidents were common. There were constant hunting complaints. It was ridiculous. And Sunday is a hard day to enforce because officers need days off too. Ms. Kibler predicts DNR will be even more stretched if hunting is allowed on more Sundays. How many more accidents would there be if the perception of danger kept so many Marylanders inside? Our population is growing. There's currently a 200% increase in real estate sales on the Eastern Shore. Hunting accidents and confrontations are bound to increase due to increasing pressures on access to finite public and private outdoor spaces. This is even more true because public and private properties are so intertwined. We should accommodate wildlife enthusiasts who spend 3 times more money than hunters, rather than create obstacles to their enjoyment of the outdoors. I believe this blue law is not antiquated. Rather, it is anchored in basic cultural values developed over centuries. There should be an equitable division of time and place, and this should not be adversarial. So much energy, time, and dollars have been spent on this issue. I would really hope that
Thank you.
we could come.
Ms.
Thank
Bell,
you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Stacy Frank. Are you with us?
Yes, hello there. Yes. My name is Stacy Frank. I'm a Caroline County resident living on my horse farm directly across the street from the Tuckahoe State Park, which straddles Caroline and Queen Anne County. I'm also a board member of the Tuckahoe Equestrian Center with 300 members, the majority of whom are active trail riders in the park. Riders also come from Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Virginia to ride in the park. The park's multi-use trails and meadows are frequented by scores of riders, hikers, families with children, dog walkers, bikers, bird watchers, and nature enthusiasts of all kinds. Most of these folks also work during the week, so they can mainly enjoy outdoor recreation on the weekends. So the argument that hunters are up against the same time constraints and so need the extra Sundays to hunt therefore holds no water. Why should this minority's needs come above the general population? In fact, the majority of Marylanders oppose Sunday hunting, and most have never even hunted. Many riders are forced to change their riding locations to avoid being out when hunters are present. Horses are easily spooked at the sound of gunshot, so accidents, especially to children, can easily happen. The pandemic has brought an enormous increase in people seeking outdoor recreation on both public and private land. As well, the horse industry is a major source of revenue for the state, with 28,000 equine industry-related jobs, $1 billion worth of horse-related spending, and approximately $78 million in tax revenue from horse-related industries. Over 100,000 horses live in Maryland, with horses in every county, and the majority are trail riders. This used to be a statewide issue, but as it was left more to the counties, the prohibition of Sunday hunting has gradually been eroded. Studies have shown an increase is not needed to control the deer population. In fact, bag limits have been reduced. Tuckahoe Equestrian Center is not opposed to hunting, as many of our members are hunters, but we strongly oppose any expansion of Sunday hunting. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and Ms. Frank and Ms. Martinez.
Okay. A majority of Maryland's oppose Sunday hunting. An independent statewide poll found that 69% of respondents oppose Sunday hunting, and 78% would decide to alter their recreational plans to avoid hunters. In a Maryland Horse Council poll, 85% responders said that they change their schedules of riding locations to avoid encountering hunters. Even DNR's own commission survey found that a majority of general population does not favor hunting on Sundays, does not want to see it expanded. Since the advent of the pandemic, widespread use of outdoor recreation and natural resources by the general public has only increased. Now is not the time to increase general public exposure to possible hunting risks. The Department of Natural Resources has recently concluded that the deer population in Maryland has stabilized, acknowledging that reducing the deer population is not a priority according to DNR recent survey. Hunters want to see the deer populations maintained or increased. According to the DNR survey, only 8% of the general population has hunted in the last 2 years, and 84 have never hunted at all. Every Maryland county, without exception, is home to hundreds of thousands of horses. There are more horses per square mile in Maryland than any state in the union. Sunday is the one day of the week when children who are not at school and adults who are not at work, who are hikers, bird watchers, dog walkers, trail riders, and other outdoor enthusiasts can enjoy the outdoors without concern for adverse interactions with hunters. This bill would allow hunting in Queen Anne's County on every Sunday of the year because it covers all species of games and birds. The Tuckahoe Park is located in Caroline and Queen Anne's County, which means that there would be hunting every day a week of the year because it includes deer hunting and bird hunting. So we're stuck with hunting all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Question for the opponents. Questions for the opponents, seeing no hands. That completes the hearing on that bill. Now we're going to go to Senator Hershey's second bill, Senate Bill 605, Sunday hunting, Queen Anne's County. Senator Hershey will lead off. He'll be followed by Jim Moran, Todd Moan, and Ruth Buriano. and they will be followed by Ms. Claggett and Ms. Gast. Senator Hershey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Steve Hershey to present Senate Bill 605, which is a local bill that allows hunting in Queen Anne's County on Sundays during the open season for game, bird, or mammal on private lands. Again, not public lands. Queen Anne's County joins Allegheny, Cecil, Garrett, St. Mary's, and Washington counties in matching these hunting opportunities. Senate Bill 605 is supported by the Queen Anne's County Commissioners, the Queen Anne's County Delegation, Queen Anne's County Farm Bureau, and Department of Natural Resources. I request a favorable vote on Senate Bill 605. Thank you.
Senator, thank you for your conciseness. Greatly appreciated. Let's go to Jim Moran first. Queen Anne's Commissioner. Commissioner Moran, welcome. Is Commissioner Moran with us? Ms. Stanton, do you know?
No, I don't see
Okay.
him. Sorry about that.
Then let's move on to Todd Moan. If Mr. Moran shows up, we'll slide him in.
Okay.
Is Mr. Moan in? Todd Moan, M-O-H-N.
Mr. Chairman, they're both with the county. Mr. Moran is a county commissioner. Todd is the county administrator, so they just might not be on at this time.
Okay.
We'd let them know about it, though. Thank you.
No, thank you for letting us know. Mr. Buriano.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the.
We lost you, Bruce. You're unmuted, but we're not getting audio. Ms. Stanton, is that at our end or his end?
That must be on his end because I can see where he's unmuted and I see his video is,
Okay, let's try it now.
Can you hear me, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes, now we can.
I'm sorry. For the record, Bruce Bariano, I'm the registered lobbyist for Queen Anne's County. It's a pleasure to be before this committee. Commissioner Moran and Mr. Moan are unavailable, and they asked me to sign up since I am their lobbyist. As the senator indicated, the county commissioners are in very strong support of this legislation. It's been fully explained by Senator Hershey, and I respectfully nothing further to add, but would urge a favorable report on this local bill. The cross-file has passed the House of Delegates, House Bill 225, and if not already in your committee, should be coming over shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your brevity. Questions for the proponents, Senator Simon Ayer, before we go to the opponents, Senator.
Yes, Bruce, I noticed this is for game birds and game mammals. I was wondering which one you prefer better.
I like all mammals and or animals. I love everybody, Senator.
Very good. Good answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
He sends them all birthday cards as well.
Hopefully not during session. Session. Further questions for the proponents? Seeing not, we'll go to the opponents. Christy Claggett, Wendy Gast, in that order.
Okay, committee, I'm back again, speaking for the Maryland Horse Council. This bill is all game species except migratory birds, all seasons, all Sundays. The same as the Calvert County bill, Senate Bill 356, and it's on private land. So basically, we're talking about all the seasons. It's going to stretch from the fall to the winter to the spring. I mean, turkey is May and April. The only break will be a little bit in the summer, but of course, then you can always shoot coyote, nutrina all year round. So then you'll be able to shoot those on Sundays also. So this really becomes a problem in that you've got guns in the woods and the fields every Sunday of the spring and the fall and the winter. The angle of shot with deer, you're shooting down, but when you're shooting squirrels and rabbits and turkeys, you're shooting across the land, and there's a lot more chance of hitting something that isn't what you were aiming at. In Queen Anne's County, we have 1,700 horses, 380 stables and horse facilities, 1,400,000 in total capital expenditures. That's a lot of investment in Anne Arundel and Queen Anne County into horses. And the people that are most of the recreational riders, as I said, are trail riders, and they're using interconnecting trails. And if they can't use those trails, they might move to other counties and spend their dollars elsewhere. So let's not jam hunters and non-hunters into being out together on Sundays. Let's the non-hunters try to avoid the hunters, but if they're going to be out every Sunday, then we're going to be jammed up against each other. Please oppose Senate Bill 605.
Yes.
I'm done.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Facts have been presented here, but my testimony is a plea for those with the least voice. I'm a PATH International certified riding instructor, the equine director, program director for Talisman Therapeutic Riding. So we currently operate 7 days a week, and we operate our programs currently during hunting season around the times that we know that surrounding property owners are hunting. So we work very efficiently with them. What does not occur is that sound has no barrier. Sound does not know the property line. So this presents a very imminent danger for our riders who range from age 4 to 80. When gunshot is heard, the horse immediately responds in a very negative way. This becomes extremely dangerous for our operations. So we're currently structuring our operations. This is not about the bottom line. This is about safety and lives. This is about providing a service that is both recreational and therapeutic. So my plea is really that we already work with our property owners. We are surrounded by water, so sound travels. So even properties that aren't completely surrounded by us or adjoined by property line, we're still affected by the sound of shot. We've got numerous horses that are very triggered by that. So again, it's a plea that we like to open our doors on Sundays to those that are most vulnerable, those that really need that emotional support, that need that Sunday of enjoyment. So our most sensitive riders and participants come on Sundays. So now we have another day that we're going to have to work around. And this just is not fair. So it has nothing to do with being a horse rider, with riding horses. This is a very imminent safety issue and applies to a service that we offer in Queen Anne's County, has served over 500 individuals.
Thank you, Ms. Gast.
Thank you.
Let me go to Senator Kagan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, for any colleagues or anyone watching who are unaware of what therapeutic riding does, I just want to start by saying thank you, Ms. Gast, for that important service. I have been to a couple of places, one in Anne Arundel, one in Montgomery, and the service for people with disabilities, people who've been traumatized, people of all ages is really extraordinary. And there are folks who can't really deal with people along the autism spectrum or with other disabilities who can't talk to people, but can be with an animal, and it helps them with balance and confidence and so much more. So thank you to those nonprofits and the volunteers and staff and donors and board members who support those. So having said that, I have a question for Ms. Claggett. Ms. Claggett, at the beginning of his testimony, Senator Hershey listed a whole bunch of counties and said that this bill is just like that. I'd be surprised if the way you characterized all animals all day, every time, around the calendar or whatever. So which one of you is inaccurate? And so if you can just be super precise, is it that Senator Hershey misrepresented that this bill is precisely like those in the other counties? Or was this an exaggeration of how overwhelming it's going to be? And Ms. Claggett, you have now muted and unmuted yourself, and now you have removed your video. So if you can put your video. Put video on,
can you hear me?
Yourself. We can't see anymore. Your face is gone.
The batteries just died.
Well, just to answer the question, Ms. Claggett.
You can speak to that, please.
Can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you. Yes, we
Yes, you
can.
can hear me.
Good.
Great. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. On the Eastern Shore, there are no other counties that have this all season, let's just call it. It's basically up in the Western counties where it's much larger properties. And there actually is a list of all of the different huntings on Sundays. And it's Washington and A and B. And
You know what, Ms. Claggett, if your
Yes.
battery's about to die, maybe you could just email us and just. if
Okay,
you-
well, it's definitely not the
Hold
Eastern
on,
Shore.
Ms. Claggett,
It's the Western counties.
Claggett, if I can finish, if you can,
Yes.
if you've got issues or dispute with Senator Hershey's testimony, if you could email us the facts as you see them, and then Senator Hershey, if you've got any clarification or precision that you'd like to share, because I'm confused. It seems like the two of you were both giving facts and they were not. They were in contravention of each other. So if you could both share that, I'd love to know that. Thank you,
Madam
Mr.
Chair.
Yes, I will do that.
Yeah, and Madam Vice Chair, I'll be happy to say that, send that as well. I would just note that under the Article 10-410, it specifically lists the 5 other counties: Allegheny, Cecil, Garrett, St. Mary's, and Washington counties. I think what the concern was is that part of the article is a little bit more all-encompassing. So it includes game, bird, and mammals into that one part of the section of the article, whereas other articles are specific about what types of
Senator
animals,
Hershey,
birds, mammals. Right.
I think you're passing, this was for the opponents. Anyway, I'd love to hear from both of you, just so we're clear in this before we discuss it or vote on it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Senator Hershey, I guess if there are any additional costs, it'll come from the C fund.
That's all. I mean, Mr. Chairman, we've got too much money in there. It's going to help us with our hunting, but that's in a different bill. So thank you.
Thank you.
If only we could
joining
plant
us,
more trees, then the bullets could get bollocked up.
That's a good idea. Trade some honey for some trees. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator Hershey, and your proponents and the opponents.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Senator Gallion, next to last bill, Cecil County fishing restrictions. We'll start with Senator Gallion, followed by David Sikorsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. For the record, Senator Jason Gallion here to introduce Senate Bill 799, Cecil County fishing restrictions. This bill establishes that provisions that give a property owner or occupant first choice to set or position a pound net or haul sign to catch fish for commercial use in front of the property do not apply to Cecil County. The purpose of this bill is to remove prohibitions that date back all the way to the 1800s in terms of setting pound nets in the waters of Cecil County. This bill seeks to bring us in line with other jurisdictions such as Kent County, where this happens more frequently. Nearly all other jurisdictions are allowed to do this as long as they get permission from DNR and check periodically so that they are not abandoned. The provisions we are seeking to fix sets forth that you must have permission from a landowner to set pound nets in front of the property. To get permission from these landowners is nearly impossible. And oftentimes now there are condominiums that are in front. So it's almost impossible. You'd have to get permission from all these different people in a condominium. For educational purposes, a pound net is simply a net that uses directional ability to send the fish along a vertical net into a hoop collection area. All the fish stay alive. A commercial fisherman then comes by and empties the net. If a fish that is not supposed to be there is in, then they are released live.
Senator Gallion, thank you, sorry.
Yep.
I apologize. I was going to ask someone to mute themselves, but Lamoria or they figured that out. I just wanted us to be able to make sure we heard you. I apologize for interrupting.
No, you're good. Thank you, Madam Chair, or Vice Chair. The size of these nets are regulated by the state, so certain fish do not get caught in it. This happens all over the state, and we just want the ability to do it in Cecil County. There are a couple amendments that would preserve the hunting in the area. Also, the language in the bill was so old that it didn't include Harford County. So the amendment also addresses that, as well as putting it in the right section of the code. I just also want to mention that this, on the House delegation side, is supported by the Cecil House delegation. There's a co-sponsor amendment forthcoming to add Senator Hershey, which, you know, he and I being the only two Cecil senators would make it a Cecil senator's bill. And also there's a letter of support from the Cecil County Council and the Cecil County Executive. And I respectfully would ask for a favorable vote on Senate Bill 799. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Let's go to David Sikorsky, unfavorable from CCA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is David Sikorsky. I'm the Executive Director of the Coastal Conservation Association, or CCA Maryland, Maryland's largest recreational fishing-based organization and part of a state chapter of the largest national tidal water recreational fishing organization. And our opposition to this bill is largely based on this bill is drafted, not as the amendments have been offered. And it's largely based on a concern with DNR's management of this gear, DNR's understanding of the impacts. And I know that DNR did provide a letter of information on the House side, and there was a lot of great dialogue at the House committee. And so our biggest concern is over DNR's ability to manage fish. We pride ourselves as an organization as always trying to lead fisheries management with science and putting the resource first. This has nothing to do with the waterman's intentions or our concerns with what the waterman's intentions are. I would never assume what the intentions are. And after hearing a lot of the testimony in the House, it's very clear that their intentions are not to make some major impact on the resource, and it is to be on par with what other counties can do with pound nets. So if we look at this gear, this net is a tool. And again, I believe the waterman's intention is to use this tool in a positive way, which is regulated by DNR. But I feel that DNR's regulatory or capacity to regulate has been a longstanding challenge that CCA has been concerned with for years. They have an active pound net site, which we reference in our written testimony, an active pound net site GIS map, and preparing for our testimony on the House and the Senate for this cross-filed bill, the map wasn't accurate. It doesn't actually show where pound nets are sited and active. And I know our members have noted issues with whether or not DNR is enforcing pound net rules as written for some time. So again, it's less about the exact and more precise approach that this bill has been amended to take. And I just wanted to highlight something that's also important, because as DNR did provide in their House testimony, I've not seen any Senate testimony. They are concerned about the species impacts that these gear can have. And while the majority of species can be released from these nets alive, there's always a time and space component to things where this may not line up. And as diverse as the Chesapeake Bay is, from the top to the bottom, the north to the south, all the different rivers, you know, it's not a one size fits all solution and not a one size fits all impact. And so river herring, shad, striped bass are all species which spend a great deal of time in the ocean as adults and return to our bay to spawn. The upper bay is a really important spawning area. And just recently, DNR has taken action. I'll provide this via email, but it's a map that shows over time what recreational anglers can do in the upper reaches of the bay. And the reason that you see this red area, this means that anglers cannot even pursue striped bass for the entire month of April. And again, I'll provide an email to provide a lot more clarity on this. And I would hope that maybe some amendments could be considered where the nets are out of the water when spawning fish are in place, and especially to avoid impacts on invasive or on endangered species. This is an image which is already in our written testimony on an Atlantic sturgeon that has been impacted by these nets and an overwhelming concern. So I understand that my time is up, and I thank you for your time today. And I will be reaching out to the committee with more information and the sponsors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That concludes the hearing. While the Department of Natural Resource again signed up for information and not a position, I would direct you to their testimony. They're talking without taking an official position, but they obviously have a position. So seeing no further witnesses, that concludes the hearing on 799. We go to the last bill of the day, 634, our own Senator Carrozza. This is natural resources, Sunday hunting in Somerset County. So we've hit both mid shore and the lower shore today. We'll start with Senator Carrozza followed by Charles Laird and Ashley Webster. And then we will go in opposition to Ms. Claggett. Senator Cardoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to my colleagues. And I am pleased to present to you Senate Bill 634, which would add Somerset County to the current list of counties that are permitted to hunt on Sundays for game bird and game mammals. The other counties I think have been noted include Allegheny, Cecil, Garrett, St. Mary's, and Washington County. The bill would also allow Somerset County to hunt on public land leased to a hunt club. So it's very narrow as well. I want to note, please, that this is a local request from active hunters and families, as they believe this legislation would allow more time for Somerset County families to hunt for game bird and game mammals. It would provide Somerset County with some of the same benefits that several other counties have that allow the Sunday hunting and hunting on public land in a narrow space. I would also like to note the broad support from the Somerset County Commissioners, from the Department of Natural Resources, from the Maryland Farm Bureau, from a variety of individuals ranging from small business owners to hunters and to property owners. My panel will include a focus on family hunting and safety traditions in Somerset County, the local benefits of this legislation. Charles Laird, who you will hear from, is the vice president, the vice chair of the Somerset County Commissioners, and also Ashley Webster, who's an active hunter in Somerset County. So I am respectfully asking my colleagues for support. I did note that there was just one unfavorable, and perhaps the county commissioner might expand on it, but some of the issues that have been raised by, I believe it was the Maryland Horse Council, are really not as impactful in Somerset County as in other areas. So I urge my colleagues to support Senate Bill 634 and give the courtesy of my witnesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Could everyone else please mute until we ask you to unmute? Mr. Laird, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Believe I'm with you.
Great, you are.
Okay. I would like to thank you, Mr. Chair, and the committee for having the opportunity today to speak. The county commissioners are for Senate Bill 634. And I just wanted to add a quick note. Just because people get the opportunity everywhere else to hunt on Sundays, Somerset feels as though with the families having working schedules, as we've heard through past other things that we discussed today, that the children might have more days afield without having to take a vacation or whatever needed from a school or a college or whatever. But the most important thing that I want to share today is having the opportunity to enjoy our natural resources. And just because you take the field doesn't mean you always harvest. It's the opportunity. And just because you're out there, you're making memories and you're spending time with your family that will last for years and years and a lifetime. And the emphasis on the deer control and what have you, we all know there's a problem and it's being addressed by the DNR. But my main concern is letting the Somerset County residents have the opportunity to actually hunt and spend time with our families on Sundays. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir, for being very concise. We appreciate it, Mr. Laird. Ms. Webster.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Thanks, guys, for having us. I just wanted to jump on and kind of reiterate what Charles said. As a family hunter here in Somerset County, I hunt with my husband and soon-to-be daughter, going to be hunting here in the next couple of years. It's very important to us. I've hunted since I was a little girl. We also have a family farm that we manage. We have about 700 acres. My husband also has deer harvest permits. That doesn't always work. I've heard some people have some saying that's a big thing to talk about, but it doesn't always work when the property is not yours next door. It is one way to control it, but it's not always the best way. For me, it's getting out there with my daughter and our son, who will hopefully join in. But I also work 5 days a week. So my only time to hunt is on Saturday and Sunday without having to take time off of work and, taking days off or taking her in and out of school. But it's mostly about the memories and making those with your family. And I feel like Sundays would give us that extra day just to get out, even if it is just to go sit in a deer stand, not to shoot, but just to get out there and get them experienced with the nature. And I hope that everybody's in favor of it, like we are here in Somerset County. So thank you for your time.
No, thank you, Ms. Webster, and good luck with your daughter. A question for the proponents. We have one opponent. Seeing no hands, let us go, Ms. Claggett, for your last appearance of the day.
Isn't that wonderful? Okay, so obviously the Maryland Horse Council is opposed to Senate Bill 634 because of the expanded Sundays, the all game, all seasons, all Sundays aspect, private and some public lands. To let Senator Kagan know, I always think of Cecil County as more northern, but it is apparently an eastern shore. And so it is Allegheny, Cecil, Garrett, St. Mary's, and Washington that have this all already. Let's talk common sense. You're dealing with 2% of the population that wants these Sundays. Somerset already has 9 Sundays. Let's not go wild here and give all Sundays all year round. There's no need for this. I mean, if you want to go out with your children in the woods, don't take a weapon with you and you'll enjoy it just as much. But we are not anti-hunting. We just want to share. And we don't think this is equitable. If you've heard of these different hunting accidents, safe Sundays are important to people that don't hunt. There's a real perception that you could get hurt. I mean, DNR's annual accident report has numerous stories of slugs and buckshot being found in buildings and cars. In 2019, a man fishing was grazed by a bullet that was shot 0.2 of a mile away. In 2013, a hunter shot his own son across the field. I mean, if he can't recognize his own son, is he going to recognize me on a horse or anyone bird watching? It's accidental, but it is really tough when you push non-hunters and hunters into the same day to recreate on Sundays. So please oppose these Sunday hunting bills and this one specifically. Thank you.
Questions for Ms. Claggett? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing and the hearings for the day. Thank you, witnesses, for having the patience and staying. Committee, it is now 3:28. We will meet promptly at 4 o'clock. Take a break. Take care of some other things you haven't had a chance to do. We will meet promptly at 4 for a voting session in the committee room. Thank everyone, and we're adjourned.
So how'd I do?